In the state of Texas, well, they're holding their primary runoff elections today. The main contest to watch, the Republican race for U.S. Senate. Incumbent John Cornyn is fighting for his political survival against Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who recently secured President Trump's endorsement. Paxton said yesterday that he's already turned his attention to November, the midterms, which will pit today's winner against Democratic Senate nominee James Tallarico.
With the endorsement, it becomes a lot clearer that I'm going to be the nominee, and we wanted to focus on the positive and then focus on our next job, which is take down this Democrat who has the most radical views that maybe I've ever seen, certainly in Texas. This is a guy, James Tallarico, who might be able to get elected in California, but certainly once voters in Texas know his views, I cannot imagine that they would support this guy.
CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe is in Austin, Texas. So, Ed, Ken Paxton feeling pretty confident about today's runoff. Does Senator John Cornyn have a chance at all? Does turnout play a role in what's happening today in Texas, or perhaps not?
Always does, Vlad. Let's step back for a second, though, and look at the big picture. This is the latest stop in President Trump's ongoing political retribution tour. Remember, he's helped a handful of candidates that he endorsed win in races already this year in Indiana, Louisiana, and Kentucky. Texas now becomes the biggest prize, potentially, as he endorsed the Attorney General Ken Paxton last week, basically saying he's been more loyal to me, he's better aligned with the MAGA movement. His issue with John Cornyn, who votes with the president's priorities, about 99% and change at the time, is essentially that Cornyn didn't as quickly endorse his 2024 campaign and was one that sort of waffled on the question of impeachment back in the day after the January 6th insurrection. So, it's a reminder that the president expects 1,000% loyalty from fellow Republicans, and he's trying to help Paxton here. Cornyn's team argues, based on early voting results that were released last night, that they still got a shot at pulling it off tonight.
Yeah, I saw your report on CBS Mornings, Ed, this morning. I love that soundbite where Cornyn was like, I voted 99% of the time. How much more loyal can you be? But I think the context that you just cited is important in sort of understanding the president's decision. So Senator Cornyn and his supporters say that if Paxton does win the Republican nomination, he can't gather enough support to beat James Tallarico in November. Do you think that currently appears to be true?
Well, polling would show right now that James Tallarico, the Democrat, a state representative and a seminarian, is polling either even or slightly ahead of either Cornyn or Paxton. That's a great position for a Democrat in Texas to be in, but it's only May. We've seen this song and dance down here before, where a Democrat gets popular, keeps it even with the Republicans, and then in the closing weeks, the Republicans show up to vote and ultimately prevail, because there's just more of them in this state than there are Democrats. Tallarico's going to try to be making a pitch to Democrats, independents, Republicans, concerned about the state of the economy, the president's leadership, and concerns about how Texas has functioned over the last several decades. But when we talked to Cornyn about Ken Paxton back in late February, early March, right before the first round of this, he had warnings about what Ken Paxton could do, not only in the Senate contest, but in House races, the governor's race, and several other things here in Texas, given his years of scandal that he's denied, but that has led to all sorts of negative headlines through the years. Take a listen to what Senator Cornyn told us.
If Ken Paxton is the nominee, I think all of that is at risk. And not just the Senate race, but these down ballot races as well. So I don't know why we would want to take that risk.
So the concern that Republicans have is that tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars by the party, by super PACs and other groups aligned with Republicans are going to have to spend that kind of money here in Texas in a big competitive midterm election year, when they would rather be spending it on less expensive but equally competitive races in North Carolina, Georgia, Maine, Michigan, Ohio, Iowa, Alaska. Those are the other states that are holding Senate contests that could flip the balance of power. They're like, we shouldn't be here in Texas doing this when we've held on to this seat since 1988. They argue Ken Paxton puts it at risk.
So, Ed, before you go quickly, two things that I'm thinking about. One, John Cornyn, and he's argued this, and he's said it in interviews with you and with others, that he has been in lockstep with President Trump almost the entirety of Trump's time in office, both this time and the first time around. Doesn't appear that matters at all to the president, number one. And so how does he feel about that, right? That the fact that he has been a strong supporter of the MAGA agenda, only to be kicked to the curb in this moment. And secondly, how is James Tallarico polling vis-a-vis the last time we saw something like this in Texas, which was Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz?
He's doing better than O'Rourke was doing at this point back in 2018, was it? And that's what gives Democrats some hope, is that not only is he polling better, but he's raised a heck of a lot more money that he's preparing to start spending tomorrow when this general election gets underway. And it's partly because this is someone as a seminarian that the Democrats believe presents a broader message of sort of above partisanship to a state that is eager for a change. As for the Cornyn Paxton endorsement stuff, look, for the president, ultimately, it seems like it came down to a vibe. The idea that Paxton's better aligned with his movement than Cornyn is these days.
Wow.
Even though the senator says 99.3% of the time, hard to be more loyal than that.
Exactly. Well, yeah, exactly right. All right, Ed. And again, congrats on your Knicks prediction, my brother. Love that. Go Knicks. Thank you, Ed.